So man, new Godzilla movie.
New Godzilla. Let's go to the cinema right now and see the new Godzilla movie.
I loved it. What was your favourite bit of Godzilla King O' Monsters?
Well,
King of the Monsters.
My favourite bit of Godzilla Queen of the Desert was when he donned that lovely dress and just decided to do the little sort of like "Hello, my honey, hello, my ragtime gal" over Tokyo.
I guess that was alright, but my favourite scene in Queen of the Damned was when Bryan Cranston from the last movie came back as a ghost and actually sold meth to Mothra.
Yeah, I really liked it. I also liked in Return of the King where the Ghost Army and Godzilla like charged across Pelennor Fields.
Yeah. I thought there would be some copyright issues with that, but apparently not.
I think it's a shared universe now. I think it's Tolkien Toho.
Well, it was obviously J.R.R. Tolkien's dying wish to be part of a westernised franchise of a Japanese property. But you know what my very favourite part of Godzilla King of Monsters was, Aaron Chapman?
Go on.
Not fucking seeing it, because we're not lame.
We didn't see it.
No.
You've been duped. You've clicked on a video that says King of Monsters, but we watched a different movie.
We watched a bitchin' movie called Shin Godzilla.
So where Godzilla aims exclusively for the shins.
And his weak spot, surprisingly. Yeah.
That's why. He's got a real,
So Pippin ran at his shin and slashed at his shin.
Because he'd be good at slashing at a human shin, but with Godzilla he's really good at it. He's so much taller.
Why don't you walk in with the plot of Shin Godzilla?
Shin Godzilla?
Other than that awesome plot we just did.
I mean, I actually have no idea what King of Monsters is about, other than like a battle royale.
It's a sequel to that shit Godzilla movie they made, where they never showed Godzilla, and they thought people wanted that.
This one shows Godzilla a lot. It's really great. It was in 2016. It's made by
Toho.
The
big boys.
It's directed by the man who made Neon Genesis Evangelion, whose name I will learn one day, because I really like him, I've decided, between the two things of his I've seen.
Two amazing things,
I mean, and also, quite far apart. He's really good, and he's clearly very versatile. It focuses on Godzilla. Godzilla has never appeared before in this film. It's all about the post-millennial, post-war Japan's utter incompetence at dealing with emergency, which I think is very much rooted in sort of Japan's most recent experience with the tsunamis and the earthquakes, and Fukushima especially channels that rather than nuclear apocalypse as Godzilla used to represent, and it really works.
Isn't it great though that Godzilla was invented specifically to reflect the fear and trembling that they had at a certain kind of man-made disaster, and now Godzilla has been repurposed to reflect their newer failings.
It worked really, really well. It felt very smooth. I mean, one thing we probably should say is that we could not access the original Japanese recording of this.
Amazon insisted on giving us the most hilarious dub.
I think you can always tell with dubs when they were done by a series of people in their, their own recording studios.
Yeah.
Because all, background sound, all, diegetic sound completely cut out whenever anyone was talking, and no one really sounded like they knew quite what their characters were doing at the time.
Or had any kind of direction at all.
There was a weird gap about, between 20 minutes and 50 minutes in the dub. There's, the voices are synced, and then just completely unsynced for the rest of it, both sides. But yeah, it was still enjoyable. I think it's probably a testament to how good the movie is that it was still very engaging.
We had a laugh with it.
Even with a variety, we had Sean Connery, with Stan Lee, we had a bunch of different people.
We had the Doctor from Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yep.
That actually was him.
Was it?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it was the Doctor from Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Is there anyone else famous in here we missed, or...?
No, that was the only one I got, because I remember the episode where Larry goes over to his house in his underpants and he won't let him in.
I'm sure they were saying really profound things in Japanese.
Yeah.
But instead they said things like,
I wish you told me that earlier!
Something has to happen. It has to do something.
Yeah, and then they just kept cutting around circles of people, and everyone would be like, this is bad. Yeah, you're right. This is really bad. Or everyone concurring that Godzilla had become bigger since last time. I think
that's the thing. So part of this film really focuses on sort of bureaucratic mismanagement.
It's a horror movie about bureaucracy.
Yeah, exactly. Where the real enemy isn't Godzilla, but is in fact bureaucracy.
Which is a fucking brave way to go down.
What doesn't quite translate well when you're doing the dub of that, and especially when you're doing the dub of that with people who aren't all collaborating, is that it all becomes overly satirical. Everyone is just shouting these bit lines at each other, rather than I imagine in the Japanese dub where it's all sort of actually quite panicked. In this one it's almost like a sort of a Chinese parody movie of Western democracy where everyone...
it isn't unfair to just be they literally say, gee whiz, it'd be really good if this just blew over on its own.
Yeah, at one point that I assume, again, I don't want to give them too much credit, but I assume in the main... In the Japanese version, there's not a bit where he goes, man, I sure wish there wasn't all this red tape. And he's like, oh, you gotta love red tape, it's the cornerstone of democracy.
Yeah.
Which is an actual line in the dub.
My favourite line, and I would like to see what it was in the original Japanese, was when they decide that bureaucracy is the issue. So they assemble what they think is the
A guerrilla
anti-bureaucracy.
team.
Yeah, even though it's just still shitloads of printers and Apple Macs and people with ranks. And I actually had to like write down what he was saying. He was like, "We've assembled a crack team of bums, nerds, freaks, and pains in the butt for democracy. They are the bureaucratic Avengers."
So it kept doing quick cuts to each one of that like archetype, presumably.
Yeah.
And there were some great characters in, I guess we'll call them the Gorilla Godzilla.
Guy with all the crayon scribbles.
Yeah, Crown Scribbles man. There was a guy with towel, possibly autistic fringe girl, who's my class fave. Then there was slightly tubby man in suit, who was the real MVP.
When you've decided that the actual problem is, and they say this explicitly, experts and bureaucrats, what is the selection process for like the anti-intellectual, like anti-bureaucracy? Are they just like, you tell you what, that's Tim in the office. Tim is always losing files. He never leaves call notes when he's on the phone. You ask him to do something and he never gets around to it. They're just like, we need that guy to fight Godzilla.
I reckon at the point at which you like rule out experts in a Michael Gove-esque fashion,
yes,
you only pick people with like unbridled enthusiasm.
like, just like
because I
shysters.
can't think of another metric really.
Yeah.
Like because as well, like they were assembling these people within hours every time.
Yeah.
And I know like Tokyo was a large metropolitan area, but they seem to be finding like vast pools of everyone required. Like where was that marine biologist from? There's a great scene in this. I think it's probably one of my favourite scenes in the entire film, where they assembled the first three experts. As ever, are just like academics in suits, and each of them is just like, I either don't know what's going on, or I might know what's going on, but I'm not going to tell you because I don't want to disgrace myself.
I cannot say for sure. As they kind of, so they obviously you weave in action with theme, as Husbando Chapman has said before. But obviously, if the theme is you need less red tape and more action, one of the ways that they displayed this, which was a bit problematic, was that they got a bunch of attack helicopters in formation to shoot at Godzilla. But then the attack helicopter guys noticed that there were a small number of civilians running away from the field.
Say two. It was like two, I want to say.
You're right.
They could have shown more, but they literally showed like an old man carrying like a young girl, like limping over a train line, and then they were clear of the area.
Yep.
So I was like, you needed to show.
It went up the humorously long chain of command all the way back up to the Prime Minister, who was then just like, no, don't do it. And they were like, that was a low point for them. Don't kill the people. Kill the fucking people.
I did feel like that long chain of command scene felt like it should have belonged in like a Wayne's World film, or like an Austin Powers sketch where they're like, it's like the huge.
They
Johnson.
Always call the same. Yeah, they're calling through. What are these guys for? Oh, nothing really. I've just always wanted to open a room full of people training like they're in a James Bond movie. Like
it weaved like the horror, and when Godzilla was like firing off, it was quite impactful and horrific. But they weaved that really well with sort of like bureaucratic mismanagement, incompetence. At one point, the Prime Minister dies. The agricultural minister gets appointed because no one else wants the job. Essentially, they play a bit of it for laughs, but it's still quite harrowing. It's quite a nice balancing it. It's
like he laments that his noodles had gone soggy. And it's just like, obviously as the audience, you're like, you have so many worse things to worry about right now. What I liked actually was how when Godzilla first arrived in the Bay Area, he was obviously just like, all he was doing was crawling around, causing havoc quite aimlessly. But he crawls back into the sea, or she crawls back into the sea.
True, never determined.
And I do apologise to planet Earth. And then obviously they're in a state of emergency in the Bay Area, but they cut back to Tokyo, and everyone's just like, oh yeah, that thing's going on, kind of close, but just far enough away that the stock exchange isn't going to be affected.
Completely oblivious. Everything stays open, everyone checking on their phones, going about their business.
Yeah, like
really funny.
The threat is clear and present. It made me think of climate change.
Oh!
I just enjoyed, it's just you can see that this is a disaster that's like right on your doorstep.
And you're content looking at it, your smartphone.
As long as it's not in your house, you're okay.
That's what I really liked about it as well. Like, so Godzilla comes in like two waves. He comes out first and he's all sort of cruelly and bleeding and sort of bloated.
Wide-eyed. Goofy.
Wide-eyed, indeed. He then leaves and he goes back underwater for a little bit, actually. In that time, they like completely lose all urgency. They get back to forming cabinets and committees. And, that's the aforementioned like nerd scene. Like, it's like as soon as it's not an issue anymore.
They also let themselves off the hook. There's that, he's like, that was really bad. All this damage wouldn't have been caused if we hadn't buggered around so much. And the guy's just like, I don't feel so bad about it. We weren't prepared.
Well, there's a bit really, really early on as well, like a really subtle bit where they say, oh, he's stopped moving, or he might be retreating, and everyone's like, oh, thank fuck. They don't have to do anything anymore. Because, yeah, it's just a bunch of check collectors. They don't want to have to make any meaningful decisions.
Which is like standing in suits and delegating. I like the design of Godzilla a lot.
Yeah, both of them. I liked young, fucked up Godzilla, and I liked
evolved Godzilla. I like that they only did 2 Godzilla screams. Because as you said, there were diminishing returns, but the first time they did it...
It was impactful. The reliance on the Americans was really interesting, and sort of like the world stage was portrayed fairly well. It fell apart for me a couple of times. Like when there's a female character who's sort of like an American-born Japanese woman, descendant. At one point talks to the president, and that it started to fray a bit there. But up until then, it had been very palpable that Japan was sort of like a smallish player in a globalized world, and that it didn't really have control of its own borders.
And
but
in hock to the Americans.
Yeah, specifically the Americans, And in the end, they have to barter with the Americans and France, weirdly. France comes through. I'm not sure why it was France.
I wonder if it was France because in Godzilla 1998, obviously Jean
Reno
was in it.
I mean,
they decided to honour the legacy.
If that French ambassador that he was bowing to at the end was actually Jean Reno.
Oh, fucking bring back Jean Reno.
Yeah.
You can keep Matthew Broderick, but
definitely
Jean Reno for the fucking win.
Yeah, he was a, time travelling samurai. He's got a connection with Japan. Do you remember what was it called? Omnishu?
No.
Oh, it was a PS2 game. It's got Jean Reno in it.
Really?
Yeah, the samurai demons come to Paris, like 1990s Paris.
Of course.
Jean Reno's got to fight them off with the help of a samurai.
This just became the Jean Reno podcast.
Welcome to the Jean Reno podcast.
I really, really like Leon. And I'm trying to think of another movie he was ever in.
No. Yeah, I recommend it.
Highly.
Really highly.
Highly. I was, because there's so many Godzilla movies, and Godzilla is unfortunately very tired. We were thinking about seeing this other one, because we have an appetite for Godzilla.
Whenever Empire gives something 1 star and it's a monster movie, I'm in. But yeah, no, we decided against it.
We hadn't seen this. We'd heard about it.
I heard good
things. It was the better choice to make. There's
a sort of sign-off. So there's actually a pretty interesting interplay between the current Godzilla movie out and this one, because they want to make a sequel to this because it did really well. The contract they have signed with Legendary means that they can't make Godzilla films in the same year that they're making Western ones.
Well, the Yankee Godzilla ones.
Yeah. So they couldn't make it in 2014 when they
the exclusively rubbish ones.
Yeah. They couldn't make it in 2014. They can't make it this year, and they can't make it next year because of Kong versus Godzilla.
Right.
And then after that, that's the end of that film. So Legendary's been touting this like Godzilla MCU thing.
Yeah.
So weirdly enough, like the contract runs out in 2020 for their rights to Godzilla. So either they've got to renegotiate, which from the sounds of it, they don't want to do because they want to make their fucking Shin Godzilla franchise. So I don't know how that's going to go, because obviously I think Legendary very much has it set on their sort of Monsterverse.
This sucks because obviously what was the great tease that, you got me to pause at the end of this movie? Frozen Godzilla's tail had mutated kind of like nuclear looking human corpses, almost like frozen crawling out of its tail.
Like as if they'd been moving somewhere, which is terrifying. There's some really good body horror in this actually in general. Like there's like gushing blood and
Godzilla rips its own arms out of its own chest.
Very, very tendony, very. And again, I guess that's in
Predator mouth.
Neon Genesis in there, definitely.
Oh yeah, that guy gets hard-ons from just things being vulgar.
But yeah, you've got sort of like a group of Western hacks preventing an actually decent film from being made due to some weird contract.
By the people whose legacy it belongs to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
who most deserve it.
It's a pretty good metaphor for the whole Japan-America thing in this film.
It really is. I have one final thing to discuss. My laugh-out-loud favourite part of this movie, maybe actually, was when Godzilla first shows a piece of its body and it flies out of the sea. Now, it looked a certain way, and I was like, that looks a certain way. And then the Japanese statesman said, it looks like a tail. And I'm thinking, no, perverted Japanese man, because me and you both know that looks like a tentacle.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, they're so clear of that.
Why are you lying to me, Japan man?
There were some great Japan men in this. There was so this film has a weird, almost sort of cultish dedication towards naming everyone on screen.
Yeah.
And you go through so many like Japanese cabinet members and stuff, and like military officials and
someone we've never seen or heard from again.
Yeah, like seismologists and nuclear guys, and there's just again like a lovingly made film. Like every one of them cast and clearly giving a great physical performance. Can't speak as to their voices because they reach to a man butchered.
Jesus Christ! By like yes, an American vocal cast who seem intent on mocking the movie they were scoring.
I don't know what they were
Just
planning.
maybe get like cut paychecks or something.
Because the thing is, if you're stapling a dub on as like the only way you can watch something, it best be damn good.
Yeah.
Best be fucking premiere. Like when like Disney do the Studio Ghibli ones, and it's full of like Matt Damon and Liam Neeson and stuff.
Yeah, exactly, and like Alfred Molina and stuff in Steam Boy.
Yeah, but
Jesus Christ, that jumped out of the mists of my memory. It's gone.
Closing thing. Godzilla shoots lasers. He lets the lasers out his back, lets the lasers out his mouth.
How it's supposed to
lasers
be.
out his tail. Go watch the Laser Godzilla.
Fucking loved it.